Warning: all views expressed in this video are from the creator and do not represent the opinions of any other company or individual. Content shown within is intended for entertainment purposes only, and no infringement is intended. Enjoy!
Hey there, this is Perch. So I want to review, it's another old title, but it's one that I think a lot of people have changed their opinion of. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but it's Wolverine, Old Man Logan. And this is the first issue of that series by Mark Miller and Steve McNiven. And I want to kind of go back a little bit to when this comic came out. It was popular. I mean, it sold like crazy. And the back issue trade was very, very strong on it. And there was generally, you get the vibe of people in the shop, people on boards. There was a lot of people who really liked this book. There were complaints, but you can tell when complaints like really kind of people are mad, and when, they're finding things to kind of pick at, but they don't really hate it. They're still going to buy the book. They're still going to kind of follow along. So, here we are, Old Man Logan. It's, $2.99 cover price. And, this was back in the glory days of 2008, so a little over 10 years ago. And this would be kind of one of Miller's, toward the end of his Marvel career. I think he was, Civil War was long done, and he'd slowly gotten more of a reputation, I think, in Marvel of kind of doing the extreme stuff. He had the Authority and sorry, not the Authority, the Ultimates. What am I thinking? Certainly some Authority work there as well, but that was a different company, obviously. So, to put it all in perspective, you've got this guy, Mark Miller, and he is telling the final kind of story of Logan. Or, again, that's another thing that history has done, because I was going to say, in modern times, this title has a lot more controversy, a lot more, I think, disdain, and I'm not sure exactly why. Mark Miller seemed to become more of a polarizing figure over time, which it's kind of curious. I can't put my finger on how that developed exactly, whether it was kind of his personal politics got in the way, or, people got kind of frustrated with his whole Miller world and kind of the self-hype, which I've heard a lot of people complain about the way he hypes his projects. And I always find that kind of laughable, because it's like, hey, publishers, how about you market your products like he does? I mean, that would be swell. Can you do that? Because I think Miller is very effective at putting his brand out there. And I mean, clearly with his relationship with Netflix and moving to Image and the creators he's able to kind of attract. I mean, Miller is a business force. And I think there's a lot to learn from how he handles his business, whether you like his comics or not. But this is about Logan. So, we open the comic with, this is Steve McNiven, and this is McNiven, who is really doing some pretty amazing work. I think, there were a lot of complaints for the lateness of Civil War, but if you look at kind of how he handled this title, Dexter Vine's inker, a very kind of unsung hero, I think, as well, that doesn't get nearly enough credit, but really nice work. I mean, just really kind of some new scenes, letting the page really breathe. You don't have Miller in here with a bunch of text bubbles and kind of crowding the space. You're letting the images tell the story, and you're getting a pretty powerful story of, this is Logan, and he's in the future, and some things have gone bad in his past. So it feels kind of like a Western. There's a bit of a secret there, and he's living in a kind of a wasteland world, and he feels broken. This is a broken man who's kind of, living in solitude. And so we go through a little bit of his backstory. We're exploring the world. So one of the things that I think is really well done about this comic, and I think has been copied a lot in future work, is that there's a whole lot of world building taking place. When you first open the book, you're seeing kind of, Wolverine blown up in his costume. He's looking tattered. He's broken. And then you're immediately jumped into this kind of sparse desert world. And what's going to happen here is it's in the future, and everything is different. So the villains have taken over. They've won. The heroes are gone. Things have kind of reverted back a little bit, and we're getting a very huge world. But you don't know it from day one. It's not, the writer and the artist are going to show us why the world is different, not tell us that the world is different. And that's a big deal, because a lot of modern comics do more tell than show. They want to kind of uh, read you about the world rather than let it play out. So we get a broken man. Logan's got a family, but he still seems broken. It doesn't seem like a father who is at peace with himself, even though he's saying he's at peace with himself. He's a man who's kind of given up on life, and he's got a family and he's living in isolation. And we're getting little hints that there are problems. And then we're getting the first little hint that one of the antagonists here is Bruce Banner, and the Hulk has gone bad, and his grandchildren are all over the place, and they're crazy, and they're going to cause some troubles. So, of course, sure enough, in come the Hulk gang, and we're seeing again. It's jarring for the reader. In comes some Hulks, and they're like hillbillies. They're weird little hillbilly people. They're riding around in a fantastic car that has been just graffitied up and broken, and here come some hillbilly Hulks to harass Wolverine, who and on the surface you're thinking, okay, so Wolverine's going to just quickly slice them up, and how are these Hicks kind of bullying Wolverine, the great Wolverine. So we get a little banter, and we get so we're seeing Logan have a little kind of a flashback, kind of True Lies style, and he just straight up murders this whole guy, just pops claws and just blood everywhere, and kills him and everything else. But then we realize, nope, that was just kind of his imagination. He's going to submit, and so he lets the Hulk gang basically beat him into a pulp, and he has to be saved by his son, and it's embarrassing, and it's reinforcing that this is a Wolverine that is just done. What could have possibly done this to him? What could have possibly led to this world? And we jump right into kind of the other hero that's going to take us through this journey, and it's Hawkeye. And once again, it's the thing that Miller is doing very effectively here, and Niven is helping with, is the goal is to kind of yank the rug out from under the feet of the reader and make them feel not uncomfortable, but like they can't find their ground. It is definitely a different world. These are definitely heroes that we kind of recognize, but they're different. And the question is why. It becomes a bit of a kind of a mystery that's going to unfold with this world. So Hawkeye is blind. He's clearly old. He's got long hair, beard, and he is it's two old guys talking about kind of a little bit the good old days, and Hawkeye's saying, let's go do things. And what's interesting here, I think in hindsight, is this is a Hawkeye who fits the Hawkeye of 2008, and kind of a character coming out of kind of House of M and these other storylines. You're getting a Hawkeye that hasn't turned into what he became over the last 10 years. And I think here again, just as a quick sidebar, people have their own opinions of characters for sure. And one thing that I think has happened to Hawkeye over the last 10 years, they've kind of made him more of a common everyman. Fraction did with his series. I think there's a lot to learn here for modern events and modern comics, where people are really struggling to tell that next big story, and there's a definite kind of impatience where it's a bit of a storytelling. You saw it with the first time I really remembered seeing it in a big way was Secret Invasion, where the first two issues of that felt like they were on speed. They were really rushing kind of the threat, the danger, and here are the Skrulls, and oh my God, the people have been replaced, and the next issue there's some fighting going on, and oh no, there's some traitors, and it was just a lot of things were thrown at you in the first act, and then it kind of quieted down to a really kind of underwhelming second act, and then it kind of got wrapped up in the end with what was supposed to be a big event, but because we had that long second act, it felt like the third act was less than it should have been. And I think that's true with kind of Age of Ultron as well. That comic, you had a really huge first issue with a lot of big shocks, and then it just kind of meandered for a while, and then it ended. And there's good elements about those stories too. I'm sure at some point I'll hit them, but With this one, you got, I mean, if you look at it, you have Wolverine, you have Hawkeye, you have some Hulk, inbred looking people, and then you have, the family, and that's about it. I mean, you're talking about a total cast in this book of 10 people total, and a very kind of, it's a slow burn, but you also got a lot out of it. You got, established this world. You seeing it's bigger and more dangerous than you thought. You definitely reinforced that Wolverine is not who he used to be, and Hawkeye is going to get him in some trouble. And these Hulks, I mean, you get these overly pathetic Hulks that are causing, some real problems. And I think that's really, really powerful, of a comic. So there you have it. So, like I said, I'll probably go into the other issues. You can kind of see how it progresses together. We'll do this over time, because I really do think the structure of this story was pretty well done up into the reveal of what happened to Logan and everything else. The last issue got to be a bit kind of overly silly, and we'll explain why. But I think there's a lot to learn here for modern comics around, what's a good hook, what's going to catch people, how are you going to have a really compelling storyline that people are going to get invested into and want to follow along with, not giving away too much at the beginning, and really trying to save some things for the big reveal and the big payoff in the end. So that's Old Man Logan #1, which was technically, let's see, this would be Wolverine 66, one of the relaunches over time. Like I said, really great Steve McNiven art. You have to kind of cry when you see some of the more modern work, because the amount of detail and stuff he put into this was amazing, and he was given time to do it. That's as simple as that. The guy was given the time and the breathing room, and had a great supporting team with the inker and the colorist, and put out a great comic. So good stuff. I think if you haven't read it, I do recommend it. I think it's worth picking up and checking out. It's definitely a different side to the character you haven't seen before. And if if for whatever reason Mark Miller has turned kind of in your mind of somebody who's kind of a little bit more annoying, over time I've become more and more impressed, particularly when I read the notes that he does, and the outlines for his stories. There is a lot of thinking. And so whether you respect the final product or not, you have to respect the amount of thought and care that he does put into things, because there's a love for the craft that comes through here. And it kind of goes back to kind of one of the other videos. Definitely he's going to give his version of a character, which may not be the version you like. It may be very different from what you're used to, and that's cool. That's creators are going to have their different styles, and those will appeal to you or they won't appeal to you. But I do think it's fair to say that he is thoughtful about what he does, whether you like it or not. The guy is very thoughtful about kind of how he's crafting a story, and there's things to learn there regardless of the end product. So thank you very much for listening. If you subscribe, that'd be great. Those great subscription numbers are always nice. Hit the bell for notifications if you want to be notified when videos come up, and check me out on Twitter and send me video requests and ideas and thoughts and hate mail and whatever you want to do. And love to hear from you. Thanks. Have a great day.